Talking about making a decision, going to jiu-jitsu every day or not going to jiu-jitsu every day is a decision that compounds over time. And I still love jiu-jitsu, but when we talked about a week ago now, man, it's only been a couple of times in my life where my injury has been so bad that I was like, I can't train. And I feel like that's where I was. But what I've been listening to you the last couple of weeks and a lot of podcasts you were in, you talk about you can still train every day, but there's different ways to train. It's not just going hard and every day you drill the move and then you have a bunch of rolls and and you are proof that that isn't the only way you get better, because when everybody watches Roll with the Foxes, you get on there and you dismantle guys that are a lot bigger than you. So talk about the importance of how do we literally train smarter as we get older in life and older athletes, or maybe we have other responsibilities to juggle, that we can train on the mat long term.
I think there's two aspects to it. And this is why my ADD may kick in. I want to make sure that I mention them. So it's sort of try to be technical. And, the ADD got better of me. The second one escapes me. It'll come back to me in the middle of something. But so let me, adaptation. Yes, adaptation is the second one. So two best seminars that I've done for my students is Brian Freeman and Maximilian Ulloa. You ever hear of those guys?
Brian Freeman, yes.
Okay. All right. So they're both in a wheelchair. Okay. And, if you ever, I'm sure you could pass their guard like nothing, but if they get their grips, you're done. But the most important things that I've had, don't get me wrong, I had Hodger Gracie, and, those guys have contributed a lot to my understanding, not just technique, but also understanding of jiu-jitsu. But these guys will teach you adaptation. Man, one of the most important concepts on earth is adaptation, adaptability. And this is one of the lessons that I want to put out there is I focus on technique and try to make it as efficient as effective. And I think that's what allows me to do things on the mats that I think people would not expect from me or a guy in my shape, position, or whatever you want to call it. One of the biggest mistakes I think people make is if they want to be good at jiu-jitsu, especially as they get, older, and this drives me nuts because that's one of the reasons I wrote the book. The book's about 10 years old, but I wrote it because I don't like to write. Like I said, I'm not a good speaker. And I got tired of listening, of guys, he's 32 years old. He's thinking about quitting jiu-jitsu because his body is betraying him. And I'm like, I think he's just doing jiu-jitsu wrong. I know guys that are in wheelchair that are doing jiu-jitsu. And, so I wrote the book. And one of the biggest mistakes people make is they train 2 or 3 times a week. And basically, when they're in jiu-jitsu, they feel good. And then the next day, they feel like a truck hit them. Because that day, they feel good. They think jiu-jitsu is about power and subduing your opponent. No, that's what competition is for. Your daily jiu-jitsu training is to increase your skill, get better every day a little bit. And these guys go balls to the wall that day. The next day they cannot move. Then the day after they start to recover, and then they go train and do it again. And you have 2 guys training like this, let's say for 3 or 4 years, which is probably, good blue belt, purple belt, possibly. That guy that trains balls to the wall for those days, through 2 or 3 days, a week, can get the better of that guy that is training, say, 6 or 7 days a week that day because of physicality. But if you take that time frame 3 to 4 years and you extrapolate that to 6 to 8 years, even if that guy that's training every day is beat up, he'll get the better of the other guy. Even if he feels like crap that day because he's just, maybe too much, he's sore, he's, muscles and everything's inflamed and so forth, he will get the better of the other guy, even though he's not in the optimal shape that day. And that's what I think ultimately people should be aiming for, is to be technically good, because then you can get the better of guys that are more physical, more athletic, been training as many years as you, but differently, hard 2 days a week. And I think that should be the aim. And I think that's what's ultimately going to give you the pursuit of martial arts is just like, I look at it more from a Japanese perspective, where Japanese, you have a guy that's been training, spent 50 years making tea ceremony and he wants to make it better. He's trying to perfect it. I don't understand all the aspects of it, but I think when you bring that mentality to your training, I think it's going to be a much, much more enjoyable and much more productive journey. I recommend for people that are seriously interested in making martial arts training their long time pursuit to watch the movie Jiro Dreams of Sushi. It's about a guy, at the time he was like mid to late 80s, who had a three Michelin star restaurant in Japan. It's not even on the street level. It's in a train station downstairs. And the guy is three Michelin stars. And, his one son, number two son, went off to open up a restaurant, somewhere else in Tokyo. I believe it's Tokyo. And his number one son's still working for the father. And the number one son is, now in his 50s. They like put this microphone into the father's face, say, why you don't retire, why don't you let the number one son? He says, because I think I'd still make better sushi. I'm still learning. And by the way, I think he just turned 100. Obviously he's not working every day anymore, but he's still making sushi. This is what I think you want. And that's where that, OCD, that's where that focus on technique, focus on improvement, incremental improvement and Kaizen and adaptability comes in, because there are going to be times when, there's times sometimes my back seized up to the point where I cannot move. I can barely walk. But other than that, you could do things. Work on things that don't make that injury or whatever ails you worse, and, adapt.